Hey, good morning, everyone. How are you doing? I am excited to see you here. We're right at the 9 o'clock hour my time. I believe it's 11 o'clock your time. Going to be going through how to automate your client. Good morning, Heather. Your client communications today, how to create those marketing plans, how to create those action plans, how to attach them to your clients, how to schedule additional follow ups, kind of circling back to our first session. Before I do that, I do want to share with you a link in the chat box. That link is to all of our ongoing training. So after today, where do you go to join training sessions? There is also a Facebook group and a YouTube channel that I'm going to share with you this afternoon. So know that there's going to be some more resources for you as we move forward. To begin, though, today, we're going to be logged in to your IQ office. And Heather, I know you can hear me. Doug, can everybody there hear me in your office? And Tessa, can you hear me? Awesome. Again, any questions that you have as we go through this today, please ask. We want to make sure that you are getting the information that you need. So as you're logged into your IQ office, where we're going to spend the majority of our time today is underneath creating my campaigns and also then creating some action plans for you. So within the marketing screen, you can go into my campaigns. The best place to start before you're creating an email campaign is in my content. So creating all the pieces of content first that you want to attach to your campaign. When you go into my content, you get a screen that looks like this. To add content, you click add content in the upper right-hand corner. And you can add many different things. So there are e-blast templates, event templates, newsletters, property flyers. You can go in and you can create all the content that you would like. If you create a newsletter, let's do that today. You can say, okay, we want to create this real estate report newsletter. We're going to name it perhaps September 2019. And anything I highlight over, I can edit. So I can go in, I can edit this text to say contact first name, the real estate market is, and you would continue to enter your text. It is automatically reflected here. And you can go ahead, you can click through, you can change the icons that are available. You can change if it is, these are statistics that you would pull from your MLS. There's some real estate trends, how many closings. So you would edit all of this information to reflect what's happening in your market and then click save. If you're going to do a property flyer for content, you can select that property flyer very easily from the MLS. So we're going to go in, we're going to say a property flyer for on the market. We're going to do on the market blue. I'm going to select, let me make this a little bit bigger so you can select the property. I'm going to type the MLS number in or the address. Check that property and it's going to automatically enter in all the photos from the MLS. I can change those photos. I can change the text. But you get the idea of how to create that flyer. Yes? Any questions on that, creating content? We went into marketing, my saved content, and then we added new content at the top. For this, I would be thinking as well beyond just property flyers. Perfect. Thank you, Doug, for letting me know. When you're creating your e-marketing, be thinking beyond just property flyers. These are the letters that you're sending out to leads. So when an online lead comes in, what letter would you like to send them? This can be monthly follow-ups for your client. This can be your circle of influence quarterly update information. This is your library of content for you to use to market your business. Doug, let me know there's a little bit of lag. So I do want to just make sure that I review that a little bit slower for everybody so you can see it. So we went to marketing, my saved content, and then we added new content. As you're in this content template screen, you can choose from the category. So you can go down, you can choose a letter. So maybe you want to do a client referral to an agent. I want to edit this letter. And you can go in and you can edit the text. Right now it says, hello, contact first name, thank you for contacting me to request a referral for a real estate agent or broker in city or state. That would be something that you edited. I enjoyed working with this person at this firm. I found them to be reliable, professional, and knowledgeable. So you can go in, you can say, okay, this is a great starting point for a letter. But it doesn't sound like me. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to say, I have worked with Doug in the past, and I know he will take great care of you. Then I want to put in my agent signature. So at the top of this box, there's a section that says add to text. And I can go in and I can insert anything from this drop down. So I'm going to insert my from agent email signature. And now it's just going to automatically pull my email signature. So whenever I'm updating my signature, I'm not having to go through and update all my content. I push OK. I change this to Doug referral letter, and I click save. As you're saving content, it's populating in this screen for you to use. The reason that I recommend creating your content first is it's really easy to go in, create one piece of content, work on it a little bit. If we get interrupted, to click save, to go back and continue to edit it. We all know that we don't live in a land where there are no interruptions. Unfortunately, there's always a lot going on. There's always interruptions for us. And so we do need to be conscious of saving work and being able to go back to it. It is much easier to create your content here and attach it to a campaign or attach it to an action plan than it is to stop building in the middle of creating an action plan or a marketing campaign. That's where we're going next, is creating an e-marketing campaign. So when you click on marketing, below my saved content is my campaigns. And when you click on my campaigns, you see a screen that looks like this. It says no campaigns found. We're going to create our first campaign. Know that if you don't want to create your own campaign, there are some company campaigns. If you click on company campaigns at the top, that you can use. So there's a buyer lead 3-month email campaign and a seller lead 3-month email campaign that you can use. You can click on these and you can see all of the events that are in these campaigns that your company has put together. If you want to view an event, you would go into Actions, Preview, and then you can see the event that's happening. We're going to create your own campaign today. And to do that, we're going to click on Create Your First Campaign. When you're creating campaigns, the best way to categorize your campaigns is by contact type. So you may have a contact type that is active buyers. You may have a contact type that is sphere of influence. You may have a contact type that is horse and ranch customers. You may have a contact type that are your outdoors people. It is easier to create campaigns based on contact types than it is to send out blanket information to people that doesn't meet their needs. So we're going to create a campaign. The first thing you're going to do is name your campaign. So we're going to name this by contact type. This might be your circle of influence. Because the people who are in your inner circle probably want different information than your online leads do. Your online leads probably don't care as much about what's happening in your family life and what's going on for the next season for you and those type of things. Where your immediate circle of influence probably does. Then we're going to choose our first event. We're going to go to content type. We're going to choose from my content, and it's going to pull up all of the content that you created already. You select the content, and now we are in to the editing of the first event. So the first thing you're going to want to do is change the subject of the email. So perhaps this is market update 2019. When you're writing subject lines, think about what you would open. It's much easier to write content and think about what you would open. So if you wouldn't open an email that said market update 2019, but maybe you would open something that said real estate update, what's happening locally. So what's happening locally? You can I'm missing an Ian. What's happening locally? You can name your subject line whatever you'd like. What's really nice is you can give your event a different title. So you could say newsletter 2019. I'm going to show you what that looks like when you're actually going through your events, because sometimes your subject lines may not have that much to do with what the title of the event is, so you can easily identify it. The next section is, how do you want to send this? Do you want to send it using a date, the first day of a month, on a holiday or a birthday, on an interval, on a day of the week, or on a transaction date? You are setting the send information for just this event. You can, in a campaign, use all of these send using types because they are independent to the event they are attached to. Does that make sense to everyone? Perfect. So this is the newsletter for September 2019. I'm going to send it on a month. I'm going to choose September 1st to have this sent out. If you're on a team and you need to have it override from a team email name or from a team email address, you can put that information in here. And then choose your send time. So I believe that it is better to send during normal business hours so that even though this is an automated email that's going out, it appears that you're not a robot. The reason for that is this. On the webinars I do, when I ask this question, 90% of people answer yes to this question. And the question I ask is, when you get to the office in the morning, do you delete anything that comes in between 12 a.m. and 4 a.m. because you know it's a robot sending it? And 90% of people say, yes, I do. So we want to make sure that people are reading your emails. In order to do that, you do need to choose a send time. Otherwise, it's going to go out at between 12 and 12:30 a.m. Now, if you want to edit the content that you put in, you absolutely can do that. You're going to click next, and it's going to ask you, do you want to save the changes in the content that you made for only this event, or do you want to save the template of your content? I typically save it for only this event and click continue. And now I have the opportunity to add recipients. To do that, I would click add recipients and we go through these steps. I'm going to show you another way to do that. So right now what I'm going to do is just click finish. And then I'm going to click done. And now I can see in my campaigns, I've got this Circle of Influence campaign. It has one event. When I open it up, I can see that this is a newsletter 2019, the subject line of what's going out, and when it's being sent. To add additional events, I can add them up here in the upper right-hand corner. Add event. And it's going to walk you through a very similar step. Again, I'm going to go through, I'm going to choose my content. Perhaps I'm going to send out a just listed flyer to this group. I'm going to say, this won't be on the market long. And I want to send it tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. And now you can see there's additional events that are added. I do want to just go through what the other types of send dates mean. So you can use holidays or birthdays. So you can go in and you could say, hey, I'm going to use this 4th of July card. I'm going to say Happy Independence Day. And I'm going to send it on a holiday or a birthday. And I'm going to choose the 4th of July. I choose to have it send out. Maybe on the 4th of July, we're going to hit people at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when they've been to the parade, they've come home, they've had lunch, they're hanging out, they're waiting for fireworks. Again, I can see that it's sending on the 4th of July. The interval send type means after I add someone to a campaign, I want to wait this long before this sends. So if I choose interval, I can say 5. And now this is going to send 5 days after someone is added to the campaign. What's really nice about this is if I have a campaign that is something like active buyer campaign, and maybe I have a series of emails that I want to go out to those buyers that talk about getting ready to buy. Things like talking to a lender, making sure your finances are in order, starting to pack up your own house, creating your lists of needs versus wants, driving neighborhoods. And I've got all this different content that I want to go out over a period of 6 weeks to these people. I can add Doug on one day and say that I have it on interval 1, 5, 9, 10. He's going to get those emails in that order based on when he was added. Then if I go in and 3 days later add Tessa to that campaign, she's not jumping in on email 2. She's starting at the beginning. So they're getting them in the order on the days based on when they were added to the campaign. This type of campaign works really well for online leads, active sellers, active buyers, and it's also a really good campaign if you want to do something after the close. There's also a way to link the events that are happening to a transaction date. So if I go in and I edit this event, there is a transaction date. And I can send 1 day after a transaction, 10 days after a transaction, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 6 months, I can choose after the transaction when I want that to send. That transaction date is pulling from your customer relations tab underneath this transaction information here. Does that make sense to everybody? Intervals and transaction dates. Cool. Thanks, Heather. So an email campaign is one thing, but a follow-up plan is another. So if you go into tools and preferences, you can go into my action plans. And action plans are a comprehensive list of information or follow-ups that need to be done either with a listing or with a client. To create an action plan, you click the plus new button in the upper right-hand corner. You would add their name. I know we did this at the beginning a couple sessions ago. It's always good to have a review, especially now that you've seen how you can create your marketing content and your marketing plans. You can name this online leads. Say that it's a contact or lead action plan. And then you can add events. Again, we've created your content. So if you want to add an automatic system email, that is the welcome email. Great to meet you. You want it to be due immediately. You want it to wait maybe 30 minutes after someone is added to this action plan. You want to send it from the owner of the lead, and you want to send it to the contact. Now, if you are a team leader or you are working with someone that you referred business to, you can choose to send this to an assigned agent. You can choose to send this to an owner agent. You can choose to send it from the system, which means IQ sending it, or from the agent. Choices there. You're going to search for your content here. We're going to go in. It automatically is pulling up your content. You're going to choose the content you want to attach and click Save. It works the same way for adding them to a campaign. So I can go in and I can say, I want to add them to the Circle of Influence campaign, 5 days after they're in the action plan. Anything that can be automated by the system. So whether it's a automatic system email or adding them to a campaign is an action that you do not have to manually go in and complete. The only actions that you have to go in and manually complete are your follow-up requests. And these can be things like weekly check-ins, quarterly voice calls. Don't forget to text them. That's what these items can be. So I can go in, I can say quarterly phone call. It's due after 60 days. I don't want to blacklist myself, so I don't want to be halted in lead routing if I don't complete the action. I do want to repeat it. I want to repeat it every 60 days because it's a quarterly thing. And I want to repeat it 60 times, 30 times, however many times you want it to repeat. I want to be reminded the day before, and I don't want to be able to snooze this. Then I click Save, and I've got my action plan going. You can do the same thing for listings. So we're just going to open this new listing plan. You create it the same way you create another action plan. You just would choose listings instead of contacts. And you add items. For a listing, you have a few additional items that you can add. You can put ordering marketing items on your action plan, sharing on social media, connecting the seller to the listing, setting up your seller reports, using putting in your video and your virtual tour. So there are more options with a listing plan than there are with a contact plan. Generally speaking, because when you take a listing, you have a checklist of things you need to do to get that property marketed correctly. What I really like about the listing action plan is you have the ability to make any of the action items visible to the seller in the seller portal. What that means is when the seller goes to your website and they log into their portal, they can see your action item list and if you've completed it or not based on what you put in this box. So you can say yes or no. I like to leave it as yes. I use it as part of my pitch when I'm going to a listing appointment. So I go to a listing appointment and I say, hey, Doug, I'm super excited to be here. I know you have a lot of choices when you are choosing an agent, but I just want to point out a couple things that are different and a couple things that are the same. So I know you're interviewing Heather as well. And to be honest, Heather and I do a lot of the same things where we pull a market analysis of your home. We're going to come within a really close range of what we think your home is worth, and we put it in MLS. What I can tell you is different about me is that I am going to do a few extra things. One thing that I do is I work comprehensive marketing plan for your listing. And as part of that, I give you access to log into your portal through my website, and you can see the items on the plan and if they're completed or not. So you know exactly what I'm doing to help you market your listing. Doug says, wow, that sounds great. And then I say, it does, doesn't it? And then the other thing that I do is I'm going to send you a weekly report on statistics on how many people are finding your listing on my website. Because I know that you're interviewing agents and they say that your listing is on 800 websites, but the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter how many websites your listing's on if nobody's going to see them. And I'm going to make sure that we're driving traffic to your listing online so that people see your home and we sell it. And Doug says, wow, that's really amazing. Thank you so much. And there are two things that are automated. One, I've created a checklist item and I've marked them as visible to the seller. And the second thing that is also a checklist item, so I don't forget it, is I've set up the seller reports to go out. Any questions on creating action plans or creating content or creating marketing email campaigns before we go into how to attach them and just review that part of it? Awesome. So when you're in your customer relations tab, how do you actually start using these things? So you can open up your contact type and you can go down and you can add them to a campaign here. I can say, okay, I need to add them to this campaign, click save, and then they go. You can go over to the actions tab and add them to your action plan that you created and click save. That's one way to do it. The next way to do it is you can click the boxes next to the contacts and you can add them to a campaign here at the bottom. So I can say, hey, I need to add these two people to this campaign and click save. Now they've been added to that campaign. I believe the easiest thing to do is when you're entering a contact in, you are labeling them by contact type. And then you have your e-marketing campaigns categorized by contact type. So if I'm in this campaign, we're going to add recipients because we didn't do that. We're going to click plus add recipients up here in the upper right-hand corner. We're going to click contact types. So I'm going to say I would like my wedding guests, referral agents, and open house people to be on this campaign. When I go to the recipients tab, I can then see which contact types are included in that campaign. And now when I go in and I add a contact type to a contact and click save, it's going to ask me, and I had them already on there. Let's do it again. It's going to ask me, do you want to add this contact to the campaign? Everybody else that you have this contact type with is on this campaign, and you probably want to add them. That way, as I'm growing my database, as I'm entering people into the system, I am also automatically reminded to add them to campaigns. Does that make sense to everybody? The biggest mistake that I see people doing when they're creating their campaigns is this. Instead of going in and creating one campaign with multiple events, your company campaigns are great examples of this. So a buyer lead 3-month email with look at all these different events in this campaign. There's things happening for the first 90 days. That is awesome. There are people out there that instead of doing it that way, they create a new campaign every time. And that is a lot of work. So create a campaign and add multiple events to that campaign. You can have a campaign that is all contacts. You can have a campaign that is new listings to the market. You can have a campaign that is my circle of influence information. But have multiple events in a campaign. It will make your life easier. Instead of recreating the wheel every time, you're only having to add one event every time. The reason that you use campaigns versus using a one-off email is the statistical part of campaigns. So when you go into your campaigns and you start to see what's happening with them, so when you have a campaign and it's active and people are on that campaign, you can see here that there are 307 of attempts that have been sent out, 301 have been sent, 118 have been viewed, and 11 had been clicked. On the right-hand side of my dashboard, I see everything for all my campaigns. If I open up the individual campaign, I can see the statistics for just each event and just that campaign. So if I want to see who's clicked on that email, I can see that. If I want to go in and see my top viewer for that campaign, I can go in and I can actually click on the contact here and follow up again via email if I'd like. So the statistics and the manipulation of this dashboard of the campaign event is a really big deal. Any questions for me today? That's a ton of information in 33 minutes. I know some of it was review of what we've done in the last few weeks. It really is about taking it to the next level and taking your contacts, adding them to action plans, adding manual follow-ups, being able to get content out to your potentials and your past so you're in touch. There are some resources available to you. So we do have a YouTube channel. You can find it underneath Realistic Support. I'm going to copy and paste that link into the chat box here for y'all. If you click on it, you won't be taken out of the webinar. We also have a Facebook page. So we have a Facebook page where we do our best to answer questions via video, as well as post all of our webinars and things like that. It's called Realistic Users. And I'm also pasting that link in the chat box. You will get an email from me with a recording of this for today. I'm excited for you guys to start really diving in and using the software and creating your own content. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I know that Doug and his team are ready for all those questions. And that if you don't have any questions for me today, that's all I've got for you. You're very welcome. We'll talk to you all soon.